What do you get when a gospel prince, a hit R&B song, a ghosted baby mama, and a $1.5 million tax bill walk into the same headline? You get the untold story of Mario Winans, and it's way messier than you think. He had the family name, the church roots, and the smooth vocals that made you cry over a relationship you weren't even in. But behind the scenes, he was dodging the IRS, skipping child support payments, and getting called out for witchcraft by his own mother. Yes, witchcraft. He went from Grammy-nominated hitmaker to ankle monitor-wearing defendant in less than a decade. And most people still have no idea. So if you thought Mario Winans was just the quiet cousin of gospel royalty who disappeared after one song, buckle up. Because the only thing more chaotic than his career is the court docket he left behind. Let's get into it. Let's be honest. When you hear the name Winans, you don't think scandal. You think gospel greatness, church pews, praise breaks, inspirational ballads, and Grammy speeches with God in the first sentence. And Mario? He was born right into it. The son of legendary gospel singer Vicki Winans and stepson to Pastor Marvin Winans of the Winans Group. He was basically baptized in a choir robe. So when Mario stepped into the music scene, most people thought he was just bringing that family-friendly, God-fearing energy to R&B. Even when he dropped I Don't Want to Know, it felt sad, clean, and spiritual. Nobody expected the guy behind that emotional piano loop to be dodging child support court or hiding tax evasion paperwork in his sock drawer. The misconception was easy to sell. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he wasn't in the clubs getting arrested or starting Twitter beef. He stayed low-key, which made people assume he was unproblematic. But being quiet doesn't mean you're clean. In fact, some of the messiest people in this business are the ones who say the least. Mario didn't need to act out. His drama did all the talking for him. And the industry? They let it slide because the man could write a hook that made you call your ex at 2 a.m. and cry in the shower. But what if I told you that the same man who co-wrote hits for Diddy, Tamia, and Whitney Houston was also the same man being taken to court over back rent, late child support, and not paying taxes for over a decade? Yep. The family name kept the image clean, but once you peek behind that curtain, it's a financial and emotional circus. And now that you know what people thought Mario Winans was, let's talk about who he really became. Here's the real hot take. Mario Winans wasn't just an overlooked R&B artist. He was an entire walking contradiction. The man came from gospel greatness, but was ducking child support payments like they were paparazzi. He wrote I Don't Want to Know, a song about emotional honesty, while lying to multiple women, ghosting his own child, and allegedly fronting like he was broke while still producing Billboard charting hits. The gospel boy was not only tangled up in a messy love triangle, he somehow managed to become the deadbeat dad and the one getting dragged to court by the IRS, all while still getting studio credits on platinum albums. So let's break it down. In one corner, you've got Janelle Bennett, a fashion consultant tied to Diddy's Sean John brand, who said she was in a relationship with Mario for years. And then, boom, she gets pregnant, tells him she's expecting, and poof, Mario disappears like it's a magic trick. She told Page 6 that once she told him about the baby, he stopped calling. No check-ins, no support, just straight ghosted. She gave birth to their son Jordan in 2005, and when she asked him to acknowledge the child, he made her go the Maury route. Full DNA test and everything. Spoiler alert, he was the father. 99.999% match, no debate. And that should have been the end of it, right? He should have stepped up and done the right thing. Instead, it became an off and on saga that lasted over a decade, with Mario showing up in courtrooms more than in the studio. Janelle said at one point he was paying $4,500 a month, until he just stopped. No warning, no explanation. She was evicted, ended up couch surfing in Chicago, and told the press her son didn't even have proper winter boots. Meanwhile, Mario's other daughter, with longtime girlfriend Joy, was apparently living in a mansion wearing designer coats. So not only was Mario being messy with his relationships, he was running two parallel lives, one in luxury, the other in courtroom chaos. And let's be real, this wasn't some broke backup dancer. This was a Grammy-winning, platinum-certified songwriter working with the biggest names in the game. So why couldn't he keep up with basic payments? Well, the truth is, the man wasn't just avoiding child support. He was also avoiding Uncle Sam, and the IRS does not play. Let's talk receipts, literal and emotional. After Janelle gave birth to Mario's son in 2005, she says the communication went radio silent. It wasn't until the Miami Herald confirmed a court-ordered DNA test that things got officially messy. And while Mario couldn't deny the baby anymore, that didn't mean he showed up like a responsible father. Oh no! At first, he agreed to pay $4,500 a month in child support, which sounds decent, until he allegedly stopped sending the money and disappeared again. Janelle said she couldn't make rent, got evicted, and ended up sleeping on friends' couches, while Mario was out here recording with Diddy and executive producing albums. And if you thought the drama stopped there, oh, buckle up. Janelle took it to the press. Page 6. Headlines. She didn't just air out the child support drama, she dragged his other relationship into the spotlight. She compared her son's situation to Mario's daughter with Joy, saying Joy's child wore mink coats and designer jeans, while her own son didn't even have snow boots in the middle of a Chicago winter. And look, when your baby mama's making fashion comparisons in the press, you know it's personal. But the real twist? The emails. Janelle leaked private emails allegedly sent by Mario's own mother, the gospel queen herself, Mario Winans. In them, Vicky allegedly accused Janelle of being a stuck-up white girl with pretty eyes who thinks the world owes her everything. She even said Janelle was involved in witchcraft and that she feared for her grandbaby's safety. Witchcraft, not financial irresponsibility, not emotional negligence. Witchcraft. So now we've got a full-blown soap opera, a gospel singer accusing her son's ex of spiritual manipulation, a homeless cocktail waitress trying to raise a child, and a Grammy-nominated dad acting like he's unemployed. And just when you think this can't get any more chaotic, it does, because Mario's mom didn't deny the emails. In fact, she doubled down. She told the press that yes, Mario was struggling financially, and she had to lend him money just so he wouldn't be arrested for unpaid child support. That's right, the mother who called the baby mama a witch was also bailing her son out of jail. This wasn't just a broken family, it was a full-blown genre-blending drama, part love and hip-hop, part Judge Judy, with a soundtrack produced by Bad Boy Records. And guess who was quietly dodging another responsibility the whole time? The IRS. Let's talk about the real reason Mario might have gone broke. Okay, let's pause and recap. We've got a baby mama beefing with a gospel legend, leaked emails accusing her of being a sorceress, and a chart-topping R&B artist playing financial hide-and-seek. And now we're about to enter the "he's not a deadbeat, he's just broke" defense. Mario's mom, Mario Winans, tried hard to spin the narrative. She told Page 6 that her son wanted to be a present father. He just didn't have the money. So she did what any confused and loyal mama would do. She loaned her Grammy-winning son money to keep him out of jail. Vicky's words were wild. "I want to meet my grandbaby, but I'm afraid of Janelle. She's into all this witchcraft." So, she's afraid of witchcraft, but okay loaning money to her grown son to dodge jail? Got it. At this point, the Winans name wasn't just gospel royalty, it was drama bait. And it didn't help that Janelle kept popping up in the media, revealing how she was practically living in poverty, while Mario was apparently living large with joy. And speaking of joy, despite all this going down, Mario still managed to hold on to that relationship. He and Joy had been off and on since the late 90s, but in 2009, yes, after all this baby mama chaos, they got married. Officially. So while Janelle was filing court papers, Joy was filing wedding plans. How do you marry one woman while another is dragging you to court and accusing your mom of sending demonic vibes over email? Mario might have missed child support payments, but he never missed a plot twist. Still, while all this drama was swirling, Mario was out here producing music like nothing happened. He helped with Diddy's Last Train to Paris, executive produced for Trey's songs, and collected Grammys behind the scenes. But let's not pretend that court orders and press quotes weren't catching up with him, because as wild as the baby mama drama was, nothing compares to what the IRS had waiting for him. 12 years of forgetting to file taxes? Now that's a spiritual attack. You can dodge baby mamas for a while. You can ghost a few court appearances. You might even convince your gospel mom to cover some of your child support tabs. But you know who you can't ghost? The IRS. Turns out, while Mario was busy hopping between studio sessions, baby showers, and courtroom exits, he somehow forgot to file his taxes for 12 years straight. Not 1, not 5, 12. This wasn't some oops I missed a W-2 situation. This was intentional tax evasion. In 2013, Mario pleaded guilty, not accused, pleaded guilty. He admitted that he just didn't file. His initial tax bill, over $400,000. That's enough to make even a platinum plaque start looking like a pawn shop item. While awaiting sentencing, he hit the road for the Bad Boy reunion tour in 2016 like everything was cool, dancing, performing, smiling on stage. Meanwhile, he had government paperwork waiting backstage like, "We'll see you in court, sir." But even that wasn't rock bottom. The feds weren't done with him. Because in October 2018, while Mario was still scrambling to keep up with child support and legal fees, the IRS came back swinging with a second bill, $1.45 million in back taxes, this time for unpaid income from 2008 through 2012. You read that right? He went from owing $400,000 to almost $2 million in unpaid taxes over time. And let's be real, even if he dropped another, "I don't want to know," it wasn't going to save him from that debt. What's even worse? Mario had to admit in court that he was struggling to pay his legal fees and had to borrow more money, again, from his mother, just to keep his defense team on payroll. By the time sentencing rolled around, the judge had heard enough. He slapped Mario with 5 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, a mandate to seek mental health treatment, and strict instructions to start paying off his full tax bill. Oh, and in court, the judge called him out to his face for failing his son. He said, "You made the decision to go behind Joy's back. This is your son, and you have to pay your obligations now and forever." That was not a line from a courtroom drama. That was real life. And while Mario promised to get his life in order, let's just say things didn't magically clean up overnight. In fact, 3 months later, he was back on the police radar. Again. So Mario tells the judge he's turning his life around, right? He's doing community service, working on his mental health, trying to keep up with payments. Except he wasn't. Because just 3 months after that sentencing, the cops were ready to pick him up again for not paying child support. At this point, the back child support debt to Janelle had ballooned to $178,000. And this wasn't just some, oops, missed a payment moment. This was willful neglect. Janelle dragged him back to court again, where Mario's lawyer tried to argue that he couldn't afford his $3,500 monthly payments because he was only making $3,000 a month off of songwriting royalties. Imagine that. A guy who once helped produce hits for Whitney Houston and Diddy was now making less than a junior Starbucks manager. The judge wasn't having it. He told Mario he had 1 week to pay the remaining balance, or he'd be locked up. Mario agreed, and left the courtroom with an ankle monitor strapped to his leg like a platinum bracelet from hell. But that wasn't the only bill haunting him. His landlord sued him for $47,000 in unpaid rent after he and his family got evicted from their home. So not only was he broke and legally restrained, he was also homeless. Still, in the middle of this personal and financial collapse, Mario tried to keep his career alive. In 2016, he joined Diddy on the Bad Boy reunion tour, yes, with an active ankle monitor. That same year, he quietly executive produced music for Diddy Dirty Money and lent his songwriting skills to Trey Songz's single Can't Be Friends, which, ironically, sounds like it was written about his relationship with Janelle. Even crazier, he almost staged a comeback on reality TV. Mario was tapped to be a vocal coach for the reboot of Making the Band, helping Diddy mentor the next generation of stars. But the pandemic hit, and the whole production got shelved, just like his album Dreams. It's wild, because even while the government was coming for his money and the courts were dragging his name through public records, the music industry still called him when they needed hits. That's the twisted truth about Mario Winans. He could be flat broke, legally monitored, and drowning in debt, but he could still write a melody that made you feel like your heart just got stepped on. And in the middle of all this chaos, Mario started working on something totally different, himself. After years of dodging headlines and dodging literal payments, Mario Winans did something nobody expected. He disappeared from the public eye, on purpose. Not because he was canceled, not because he got locked up, but because he said he needed to heal. In a rare 2020 interview with You Know I Got Soul, Mario finally opened up. And instead of pushing a comeback album or blaming the industry, he admitted something surprisingly humble. "I have a lot to talk about, but I've been working on myself." Let that sink in. A man who spent years running from court dates, press drama, and IRS agents had finally realized that maybe the biggest issue wasn't them, it was him. And instead of trying to force a return to the spotlight, he chose to take the scenic route. He quietly launched ART Time, an online mentorship platform for indie artists. Not flashy, not celebrity branded, just a space where up-and-coming talent could connect with professionals who'd been through the industry trenches. In other words, a space where he could help people avoid his mistakes. Oh, and he still had connections. He linked up with The Weeknd and helped write and produce for his fourth studio album, proving that even with a messy personal life, Mario's pen game was still elite. The industry hadn't turned its back on him completely. He wasn't interested in releasing music just to stay relevant. He told fans that although he had plenty of unreleased songs, he refused to drop anything until it came from the right place. This wasn't the same Mario who once juggled 2 women, 2 kids, and 2 lawsuits. This was a grown man trying to write a second act. Not for the charts, but for his soul. Still, redemption doesn't always pay the bills. So while Mario might be mentoring and writing from the shadows, the question remains, what's really left of the Mario Winans brand? Because once you've ghosted your baby mama, battled the IRS, and worn an ankle monitor on tour, can you ever really rebuild the trust? Let's talk about what he's still holding on to, and what's long gone. So what's left for Mario Winans after all the drama? Let's talk numbers, and we're not talking Billboard charts. As of now, estimates place Mario's net worth somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. And while that may sound decent for the average person, it's a shockingly low figure for someone who's produced hits for Beyoncé, Whitney Houston, Diddy, Destiny's Child, and even The Weeknd. But that's what happens when your life becomes a financial Jenga tower built on unpaid child support, IRS penalties, court fees, and late rent lawsuits. Every royalty check he earns likely has hands grabbing at it from 5 different directions. And yet, Mario's story isn't just about failure. When people hear I Don't Want to Know, it still hits. That song is timeless, haunting, vulnerable, and strangely beautiful. It became a cultural touchstone. It gave voice to the pain of not wanting the truth, of knowing love is slipping away, but not being ready to confront it. That one track alone has kept his name alive in R&B conversations, on throwback playlists, and in countless memes. And while he may not be dominating charts now, Mario's influence runs deep in the DNA of 2000s R&B. But let's not rewrite history. He will also be remembered for that messy, decade-long child support war, the time he owed nearly $2 million to the IRS, his gospel mom calling his baby mama a witch in leaked emails, and the image of a quiet gospel-bred musician secretly drowning in scandal. So who is Mario Winans, really? He's the guy who had every advantage, talent, family legacy, industry connections, and still got in his own way. But he's also a survivor, not of the music industry, but of himself. Today, he may not be living in a mansion or flaunting platinum chains. He's not front-page news. He's not trending, but he's still here, making music behind the curtain, mentoring artists, and slowly rebuilding a name that got nearly erased by drama, debt, and bad decisions. So whether you see him as a fallen star, a misunderstood talent, or a cautionary tale, one thing's for sure. Mario Winans is not the man people thought he was. He's not just the guy behind I Don't Want to Know. He's the guy behind a story that no one saw coming. Mario Winans may not be topping charts anymore, but let's get one thing straight. The man never stopped being relevant. Not because of fame, not because of fortune, but because his story is one of the most quietly chaotic journeys in R&B. He wasn't loud. He wasn't messy on social media. He didn't get caught on camera fighting in parking lots or spitting at reporters, but somehow, his behind-the-scenes drama outshined his actual music career. And yet, despite being dragged through child support court, owing millions to the IRS, getting called out by a judge in open court, and wearing an ankle monitor on tour, he still got back in the studio. He still got calls from major artists, and he still had the nerve to try to help the next generation avoid the mess he barely survived. That's not just redemption, that's resilience. Mario's not the poster child for a perfect artist. He's not the gospel kid who kept it clean. And he's not the smooth R&B crooner who cashed out and retired quietly. He's the guy who had every reason to disappear, but didn't. So while some people remember him for one hit, the fans who've paid attention know there's so much more beneath the surface. More drama, more struggle, more survival, and yes, still more music. He may not be a star in the traditional sense anymore, but he is a survivor. And in an industry that chews people up and spits them out, that might just be the most powerful legacy of all.